crazy, man. Like I went to shows with other cars and lost to cars that have had so much crap on it. Like they had suitcases match the floor mats, and they got blankets laid out on the ground, and they got shoes, and I'm like,
I mean, you're telling me we get a pair of Air Jordans matching pistachio. You're not going to have them sitting out by the car.
I would do that, but I'm not going to have the blanket and pillow and the robot and the guy leaning on the car. Nah, I'm not doing any of that. And when I take the L against those guys, I just hit myself in the face. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Welcome back, everybody, to the Labeled Podcast. Today we are back. We've got Justin and Evan C on the end. How you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Pretty good.
Good.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Good week.
Recovering. Yeah, I don't like a lot of our intros now that I watch them.
Really?
When we roll through them, it seems like I'm always trying to rush through everything, which I hate that. Like, going to the next topic. So I'm going to try to
ease into it a little bit.
Yeah, take a couple breaths in between. It seemed like not such a rookie, but So how you guys living? Auto show is done.
Yep.
We made it through alive.
Back to the grind at the shop.
Yep. Back to the grind. Have you guys talked to any of your friends or anybody that came out to the show? Any feedback on? Don't be. We want to hear negative too, because this isn't the sunny podcast.
That's the one thing I do wish I got was more negative.
Yeah,
that's the hard
negative.
part. I know. It's like everybody seemed to really like it, which is good.
Yeah.
But you learn from all the negative feedback. But yeah, I mean, I talked to my buddy Dylan, who's helping out, and he brought some of his buddies, and they loved it. Just the variety of cars, stuff you don't see every day. Obviously, the Widebody stuff, and especially the SEMA car.
Yeah.
Everybody seemed to really enjoy seeing that car.
How about you, Ev?
Yeah, my roommate Jake, he brought his brothers, and they haven't not stopped talking about it since the show. So he's been telling me they loved the auto salon, all of the Lambos. They're big Lambo guys, so all the Lambo stuff and all the supercars they always like see pictures of online. It's cool to see them actually in person. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We had actually quite a few clients come out too and check everything out, which was cool. We had Marcus come from Chicago with his girlfriend, which was cool. They spent kind of like half the day there, hung out in the lounge area. The part that I would have liked to see is a few more people, but I understand, it's the first event. So, Saturday and Sunday were jammed. Friday was okay later in the day. Thursday, obviously, we talked about was slow. Yeah. It's just like, you like to see the space full all the time, but it is a weird environment because it's a public show. So like there were a couple times I remember walking in the lounge and there's like a stroller and there was, believe it or not, a lady breastfeeding on the lounge.
I can remember you telling me that.
And I'm like, okay, not quite what I had envisioned in the lounge.
At least you're using it.
Supposed to be kind of swanky and stuff.
Yeah, that's funny.
But, it is what it is. It's a family show. Like everybody comes through and they walk through everything, including the auto salon. But it was cool to see when people were hanging out at night and checking out a lot of the art. I noticed a lot of people taking pictures of the art and stuff that was up. So I was pleased to see how that was welcomed.
Yep, and everybody seemed to really love what happened to Joey Reuter's car and seeing some of that live art be done. I think that was really unique. Yeah. It really came together cool. Like that's what we were talking about in the last episode, is like the more you look at it, the more you see. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of it, it turned out really cool.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it was all good. I think the conversation is, where we take it from here next year. I think that was a good learning experience for everybody involved. All the feedback from everybody that participated and put their time and effort into it said they had a great experience. I don't think anybody was just filling us full of smoke. I think they actually had a good time, had a good turnout. People had great feedback about the stuff. So I'm feeling positive about what we can do next year and kind of even this year for the rest of the events, because we got some exciting things coming up that we'll talk about as we move ahead. But let's wrap up the auto show recap. We'll show you guys some of what that looks like in some of the slides that will pop through here quickly. We've got a cool recap video of that that'll go up on the Michigan Auto Salon website. We're sharing some stuff also on our social channels. So just stay in touch. If you're not following that, jump on the Michigan Auto Salon on Instagram, and you'll see some of the stuff from that, and then also some of the upcoming things that we plan to do.
Yep.
So I think now let's talk about, we're back in the shop. We're loaded in here, so we've hardly got any room to move around. We've got a few cars out of here, but a few other things happen and some more cars show up, and it's just a never-ending kind of circle right now.
Yeah, we're basically trapped in a little square around cars. We have like a foot on that corner that you guys probably can't see. But
yeah, which is why I kind of like our setup, because we're not fixed in one location. We can kind of be mobile. It's kind of neat like that. But I think I want to talk about kind of where we are in the projects, because we haven't shared a lot through socials, just because we've been busy with the event stuff and the stuff that we have upcoming. But we've been working on a pretty cool Defender. So we do have a new Land Rover Defender. I don't know how you say it. Carpathian or Carpathian?
Yeah, I think it's Carpathian. Yeah.
Yeah, Carpathian edition, 110. It's the 4-door with supercharged V8. And we're doing a full Urban Automotive, what they call their wide body or wide track package on it. So it's the bigger fender flares, the exhaust system, the carbon fiber hood, which is insane. It literally looks like a GT3 hood. It's
literally
exposed carbon underneath, and the top has vents. It's got 22-inch Vossen Urban Automotive wheels, which are really cool.
Kind of like an Aerodisc style.
Yeah, Aerodisc. Yep. One-piece monoblock. They're full forged wheels. It has the big, which were funny when we first put them on, those mud flaps.
Yeah, I know.
Which I get it. You know, you got to have mud flaps on these. And this client's going to drive the car year-round, so I get it. It's going to be a driver. But it has the step bars on it already. It has the spare tire cover, carbon fiber rear spoiler, the XRS side fender vents, and a lot of XRS badging, the front canards that tie into the air ducts, right?
Did the fog lights cut out the OEM fog ones and then put in the new urban ones? That turned out really cool. That's kind of like an OEM plus look.
Yeah, you can't even really tell that that's aftermarket.
I know.
It looks
That's
like
what's
it
cool
came
about
that
it.
way.
Yep.
It has the carbon fiber grille XRS cover, and then we put the Miltech exhaust on it, which the first time we started that thing, I was like, what?
We both looked at each other and we're like, what? How is this coming out of an SUV right now, let alone a Defender?
Right.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting to hear. We'll obviously have some clips of that up for you once we get the car done. But it's coming together. We're almost done with it now. We're waiting for some clear coating parts to come in, clear coated parts to come in, carbon parts. And then I think that's all we got left on it.
Yeah,
right?
just
Tuning?
finish up some PPF, and that's...
Yeah, we're actually doing a tune on it, too. So a TDI tune from the UK. It's our first... it's like a JB4, but it's our first controller we've ever used from them. They're really big over in Europe, and they are specialists in the Defender space, and it's supposed to get us near 600 horsepower.
That's crazy.
On the car. So
it's so interesting, like, looking back at the old Defenders. Like, they were literally built for, like, farm vehicles, military stuff. And now, like, you look at the new ones, they got supercharged V8s. Like, people are building them for the street. They rip. It's cool, like, the variety that you can build with them.
Yep. And to give you guys a little backstory on this particular build, the client had a G-Wagon previously, and he wanted to switch it up and do something more custom. So I like this as an alternative to a stock G-Wagon. You're able to get a car, make some changes to it. It's got high horsepower at the end of the day. It's personal to you. You're not going to pull up someplace and somebody's going to have the exact same Defender of you, just because Urban... their kit, let's be honest, their kits aren't cheap. They're very high quality, and not everybody sees the value in building a full kitted Urban car.
Yep.
So for me, I think it's a really neat personal option to have on your daily, and you're probably going to have less amount invested into that than a new G-Wagon.
That's what I was going to bring up. Do you know how much new G-Wagons are selling for?
I think they're 250 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely a better bang for the buck. It seems like this car's 110, 120. I think I saw the sticker.
Yeah.
Carpathian, Alcantara on the inside, all that. A little more rugged than a G-Wagon.
Yeah.
But same kind of concept.
Yeah, it is. It is. It won't. Maybe it doesn't carry the same, name value if you're dropping that to somebody, and to some people maybe that matters to them. But for the overall look, I think you're getting a heck of a truck or SUV.
It's going to be cool
for the dollar.
Yep.
Moving beyond that, I know we've got, you've been busy in the PPF
I'm
space.
just getting rolling after the auto show.
Yeah.
Lined up with cars. But yeah, I've got Ferrari Roma back there right now. The one that was actually in the Michigan Auto Salon.
Oh, yeah.
If you saw that one. It was naked in the salon, so now we're getting some protection on it for the spring.
Which one, how many is this for Roma?
I think 3 Romas. 2 that were blue, and then we did 1 black one.
Okay.
And they were the same color blue.
What's your thoughts on that grill?
The first time we had like one of the first ones that was out, and there was no templates for it. So I sat there, I swore it was like 4 hours, and hand cut the grill. And if you look at the grill, it's insane. There's like 150 little kind of squares on it. But now they've got a template for it, so that makes my life a lot easier. But the overall styling of the car is interesting. It's definitely grown on me. Mm-hmm. And now seeing some tuning companies come out, Mansory's got a really sick kit for them that completely transforms it. I've heard, we were just talking about this with another client, is like, I've heard really good things about like the driving experience.
Yeah, everybody's loved them.
Yeah, the GT of it, like it checks every box. It's got storage. It's plenty fast. It handles really well.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a good platform because they're dropping in price now too.
Yep, exactly. And then right before that, I think before the auto show, you had the Technica. I don't think we've released anything on the blue car yet. We had it at the auto salon. If you guys got a chance to see it there, this is one of the first Technicas over here in West Michigan. Justin Nardi has it fully protected with PPF. It's right behind me, right here. But this is that was just phase 1. That was the protection part. Now she's going to go up on the lift before springtime and get some of my goodies. So I'm excited to get my hands on this car. And we're of course going back to our friends at Rift, provided us with one of their first Technica exhausts. We're going with the race exhaust on this one. So we're eliminating the valving, which in my mind changed the tone a little bit. And I think on that Evo, when we did the Evo last year, even the client mentioned to me, it doesn't seem like it has the same pop as like the Performante. And even though they're very similar, the Performante system was a race system. And so it changes the way the X's come through.
Okay.
And then where the valves are located, I believe, creates just some baffling that doesn't allow the car to, spit, that give it that sound that we really want from it. So
did that Evo system have little mufflers or resonators on it?
No.
Okay.
It just had the valved, let me think. I think it may have had those little small 6-inch resonators.
For some reason, I thought it did.
But from my understanding, those are just really flow through. They may be dimpled on the inside, but they're not supposed to really affect sound. Okay. At least that's what Vince told me over at Rift. But it's got to have something to do with the routing and the tone. That's what they kind of defaulted to, is that the tone gets slightly changed or muffled. So the tone and pitch is higher, making it seem like volume is louder, but it really isn't. Yeah. So again, it goes into the tuning. It speaks to the tuning that the companies do, with the actual pipes on the car.
Yeah, and as on the Technica too, it's got the new design tips. Are those going to stay, or does the Rift replace those?
No, we're going to leave those.
Okay.
Rift doesn't have any plan to replace those tips now. I think that's something that Lamborghini's going towards, and since it's a fresh look, I think a lot of people are going to run those tips for a while. The Rivolto is going to have the same style tip, so I think that's one of the factors that, if you don't really know the Huracan really well and you glance at it, you might not realize it's a Technica, but if you look at the back, it'll be clearly obvious. But all of us guys that know the cars, obviously we can see it from a mile away, the front end change, and stuff like that. But I think this car is going to sound really good. It's actually really muffled from the factory. It goes into that strange,
insanely quiet.
Yeah, it's super quiet.
I know. Yeah. I don't get that part of it, but we'll get rid of that.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get rid of that.
It is interesting. On like a lot of the new cars, I've noticed this is like a lot of the exhaust systems, you leave the tips, which kind of makes it like the 812, you have a stock tip, but then full titanium exhaust. Where like on the C8s and stuff, you can tell it's got a titanium exhaust just by looking at it.
Yep. I think because those housings, they're really intensive to make, so a lot of guys don't want to invest what it's going to take to recreate that. Like on the 812, it's a quad tip, all encompassed into that grill section. So you have to, you have to rebuild that entire thing or figure out a mounting strategy. And then you're talking, $2,500 for tips, $3,000 for tips. And guys are like, listen, I'm already paying $7,000 for the exhaust, $8,000
Yeah.
for the exhaust, another $3,000 for tips. I'd rather just run factory tips. And at the end of the day, tips are just aesthetics. For me, I of course pay attention to the aesthetics a lot more, but for the guys that want the sound,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you just want the guts.
Yeah, it does transform it. I mean, when you got some
does.
blue shining tips on the back, it's just like the Z. Like the black tips look good, but once you put that, rift system and you got those tips poking out, it takes it to another level.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of Rift, I don't know if you guys have seen at the auto show, we are coming up with a very limited run of C8 Z06 exhausts. We've got our first one here. Evan took some shots of it that we can probably pop in here that you can see. And I don't know if we made a reel of it yet, but you did? Okay. So we'll show you guys what that looks like. We're not getting into exhaust manufacturing, but we want to do limited runs for models that we've identified that we're doing some unique stuff with. This is one of them. So we're going to invest in creating a system specific for our clients that want to run the label exhaust, and I think it's going to look really good, sound really good. We're going to do a full install with it. I think Mark might come in and we'll do a start to finish, just live of us putting it on the car, the first startup. And since this car's broken in, we can really rip on it so people can hear what it sounds like.
Yep.
We're obviously going to still be in the shop, so don't yell at me for not having the car outside of the shop because it's winter here and we just got snow last night. So I'm not taking the car outside of the shop anytime soon. So just lay off.
Right.
All right? It's going to echo in here. It's going to sound louder, but it is what it is. I think it'll still sound good. So I'm excited to get that exhaust on the car. That's one of the things that we're going to be working on here shortly after.
Yep. Is there any other projects on your end, mechanical wise, aero? Anything
Yeah, we got
that's
some cool
exciting
stuff
that you want to share?
I don't know if I want to share it, but we got some cool stuff coming up. I know we got a full, this will be the first full carbon fiber kit for a new Z06 that we're doing. So every single carbon flash part on the car, including the door handles, the side spears, the convertible top piece, the diffuser, rear wing, splitter, side skirts, we're doing a full carbon kit on the car. This will be the first one, and I think there's, if I can remember right, something like 20 pieces in the kit, so it's a pretty extensive program. I'm excited to get that fit to the car. This car is going to be, is that red mist?
Yep, red mist metallic.
Yeah, so it's a really cool car, especially in the sunlight. It's got a lot of metallic in it. So I think it'll look good with the carbon. We'll show you guys what that's going to look like. And for our Z06 clients that are interested, we will have a program available here that you can ship us the car and we'll have the whole label narrow body program at some point where we can get the full carbon kit, suspension, exhaust, our wheels, and it'll be something that I think will be unique in the space, similar to the wide bodies, just not as radical.
Yep.
And it kind of puts the car over the edge. And the Z06 doesn't need as much as the C8, but when you see a Z06 done right in person compared to a stock Z06, it makes a huge difference.
100%. How different is the kit from a Z07 package?
It's very similar. It's essentially the same as the Z07 package. So we have the canards and everything. And we did test fit those ones on the white car, so those require us to build a template, and we actually cut the bumper, and we have tabs that mount in just like the factory pieces do. So we use all the same factory style hardware and then mount them to the bumpers based on our templating. And it came out great. I mean, that was one of the things that we didn't know really what we were getting into with the Z06 because it's a new car, and we didn't know we were going to have to remove the bumpers for everything. So in order to do the front splitters on those cars, you got to remove the bumper. I think you learned that
you learned that
hard way, right? Was that
through? And the Z06 bumpers are so much different than the standard C8. There's so many more fasteners.
They are.
You've always taught me that. It was like the cars, like from a base Huracan to a Performante, like the cars that step up in that tier of performance, the underpinnings of the car are so much different.
Yeah.
And there's, probably 50, 70 more fasteners under there. It seems like it's just like they just keep going.
It's very much like that GT2 RS that we did. Remember all the fasteners on the internal side and the way that they kept the internal ducts held up with
Those
the strings.
cables. Yep.
Yeah. It's always interesting. That's part of the fun part of the job is when you take apart a car and see, how they actually assembled it. And then that's kind of how we judge cars too, right? Like you get a car in here and you're like, well, there's not much really here holding everything together. You take 12 fasteners off and you're like, all right, I got the whole thing off.
Exactly.
But you can really tell the cars that are built for speed and they're built for aero and they're tested. That's what's really cool about seeing these
You
cars.
start looking at like the brake ducting and all that. So like the GT2 RS has rear carbon brake ducts that go in,
like the
you don't see on a
765.
a Carrera S.
Yep. So, I've got some other things going on. We're still working on that McLaren project with the client. We've got this is our first Acura NSX coming in. So we're doing a tune exhaust on the car. I think that's where we're going to start. And this will be the first modifications for the client on his vehicle. And I think that'll kind of open the door for some other things. We looked at some carbon and some wheels and stuff, and that may be, later in the year, but he wants to wake the car up, make it new for him. And I think that's something that, a lot of you guys that are in the industry know, or that are enthusiasts, but a lot of times you'll own a car for a couple of years and then you'll decide to just transform it, right? Like the car was new for you for a couple of years or for a year, whatever the case is. Then you realize you want to do some personalization, and then it almost extends the lifespan of your ownership for the car.
Like you create a new car basically, depending what you do to it.
Yeah. And when they're personal to you, I think you have the tendency to hang on to them more or enjoy them more, rather than if the car was stock, you never put anything into it.
100%.
I still feel like, the cars that I've done feel new when I get into them, or they don't age because they're just personal to me. So I think that's something that's interesting. So
what are your thoughts on that new NSX? They're kind of an interesting car. It's like,
I'm going to defer to Evan on this one.
Yeah.
Wrong person.
Really?
I don't know much about that car.
We don't see a lot of them in our area, that's
no.
for sure. We've only seen a couple. And I don't have a lot of feedback either. I don't think I only drove one once, and not even like driven, just drove it to cruise and see what it felt like. But
I mean, it's kind of it's a cool car. I don't know where they're at price point, but like the value for money, I feel like could be pretty good, especially when you tune them. They've got, a bunch of potential there, but I don't know if they put as much development as they did in the old one when they had Senna. Senna kind of developed that old car and made it, that's why it was so low and cool. But like, I don't know what they did with the new car, if it's just something they just built to, build, or is it something that like crushed on the ring? I didn't even, when it came out, there was like nothing really about it.
I know it's a good looking car.
It definitely is.
I don't know that it's a game changer in performance or anything. I know I've seen cars that have made some good power, and they seem to be quick, but it's just one of those cars. I feel like it doesn't have the cult following. I think they thought it did, but the cult following still for the first gen, NSX that will never go away. So it's like a lot of these brands when they release. 1 years later, they're trying to live off that legendary name, and they don't ever quite peak that. I can't think of a modern day car that has surpassed what the legend was of the first car. Can you think of one? How about the Supra? Where's the new Supra at?
That's not it.
That ain't it. How about the MC20? We're sitting by one.
Right.
No, definitely is not.
That's definitely not.
That didn't work.
No.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, but maybe in 20 years that NSX is going to be what we look back on, but I don't think it's going to have that same feeling. It's just like the new M3, E30 M3, not even comparable.
No, that's so true.
I think I go back to the fact that like on modern cars, I don't get wrapped up into the collectability of them. The only ones I really understand is like, we're talking about a Ferrari, we're talking about a Lamborghini, we're talking about hand-built cars, exclusive. We're making 100 of them. That's a whole different realm. That's not a production car. That's a special built car. I consider those almost like custom cars, just because that's truly what they are. But when you're talking like all of these demons and the Camaros and Mustangs and all that stuff, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years, but even then, I'm not even thinking that's going to be a thing, because the way that the automotive market's going anyway. So, okay, they're collectible because everything's electric. But at the end of the day, is it ever going to be the same as what it's like? Are you ever going to create something like the internet again? I don't know that you're gonna. What's gonna top the creation of the internet, where we went from I have books and now I just put something in and I can find something in 0.2 seconds. I just feel like there's things that happen in the world that and maybe we're long gone when that stuff happens, but I just don't see certain things eclipsing, like the first ofs in any industry, sport, stuff like that.
Do you think there is a greater following for the C8 versus the old school front engine Corvettes? I feel like that could maybe be one of those cars that has a whole new following now, and that car might be the staple, as if like an old 90s JDM car or something like that, because those old school Corvettes, you know, they are what they are. It's like they have their own following, but I feel like the C8 platform might be gaining a different kind of following, and that might, I don't know, it might turn into one of those cars.
Yeah, I definitely think the C8 is pulling different clients, that's for sure. And it's turning some people off. The old school guys, they ain't going to touch it.
That
ever.
is true.
You know, they hate it. They say it's not a Corvette, which I don't understand any of that. The car performs better than any Corvette ever.
Yeah.
So if I'm a Corvette guy, I would like the one that probably dominates every Corvette that I've had, and not base the car just on a front engine. In the silly thing to me, this is again my opinion, Duntov created a mid-engine car way back in the 60s.
That's crazy.
You know, they were testing that stuff at GM years and years and years ago because the Italians were doing it, and it was happening in Europe. So these guys were saying, hey, we need to find a way to do this, but they could never feasibly make it happen here in America because people weren't going to buy them.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
But if you're a historian and you're like, listen, Corvette brand, I've loved the Corvette brand, their front engine, but we've been working on this technology for 50 years. We could even brag we're the first American car to come up with that. You know what I mean? Like, but we didn't get it to production, but we were working on it. So why not, you know, just carry your support of what the brand is into the future?
Yep.
To me, you're leaving the brand. So that's like, you know, your team gets, your team sucks one year and you're like, you know what, my favorite team's now this team. That doesn't make any sense to me. Or they change their colors or whatever the case is. It's just, to me, it's the bandwagon stuff. And if you truly are a fan or an enthusiast, I don't think you have to leave a brand because they changed their architecture on the car for the good.
Yeah.
If we went backwards and we were like, listen, there's 4 cylinders in there now, and
Mustang.
we shortened the wheelbase, you know what I mean? And we turned it into an Aveo, and we're calling it the Corvette. Yeah, we're in.
Dude, an Aveo Corvette would be pretty tight.
It'd be pretty. The Avette?
Yeah, a mid-engine hatchback would be sick.
Yeah, you'd be
like a
killing
little
it.
MG Metro or something.
Right. I think that'd be Evan's new car.
It probably would.
We could take the C8 and we'd put him in the Avette.
Dude, I just saw, and what is that, LT2 motor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw one on Marketplace. It was like $6,500. Put that, build it into an Aveo, put it in the back of an Aveo.
Right.
That could be sick. Little track
Sounds
car.
safe.
You gotta, yeah, whatever.
Evan's got his car getting fixed right now anyway, so I think he'll take anything.
I'll take whatever. I'll take anything.
Yeah, as long as it runs.
Right.
You can track it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next topic, which today, and I'm jumping through here because we're prepared today. We didn't come in here.
Yeah, we got a couple notes now.
Yeah. But we are leaving the shop again. So this is the last event, basically, I think, for the winter that we're going to head to, which is the Detroit Autorama. If you guys aren't familiar with the Detroit Autorama, just do a Google search, look it up. The Detroit Autorama, and you guys have probably heard me talk about the International Showcar Association in the past, or the ISCA. It's the only sanctioning body in the country that does a judged point system for show cars, specifically for show cars, including payouts at each stop. So say, for instance, we wanted to build, or we wanted to take the Corvette throughout the country. We could trailer it to each stop, and they go all the way across the country, like 18 or 15, something stops all over, and we compete for points. So similar to like NASCAR and stuff like that. As you go and win specific awards at each stop, you get points allocated in that category. So say, for instance, we would be in 2000 to newer, which would be a modern category, and we would compete against all makes and models that would be 2000 and newer. Okay. So if we went to Detroit, for instance, Detroit's a 5A event. And at a 5A event, say you win first in your class or best rod, whatever it is, you would get 100 points. If you go to a smaller market like a 3A show, which would be like an Indy or something, you may only get 60 points. So it's a tiered system so that at the end of the year, if you win your big events, obviously you're going to trump the guys that are going to the smaller events.
Interesting.
So it's almost strategic on what events you go to and how you present the car, because you can't go to the smaller event shows and win and then go to the bigger event shows and lose and win your category.
Overall.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I always liked how that was structured because it gave you something to walk away from and be like, all right, this is where the car is not as good, you know, and they give you can get these score sheets, they're insane, but they'll show you like door jams. They'll show you in the engine bay. They'll show you where you missed like 0.5 points. And then you can go back and address those. So that's kind of how I started to really fine tune. Oh, okay. You know, like this is what I want to do.
Yep. That's nationwide then, right?
Yeah. It goes from California all the way to New York.
Is Detroit the like start of the season per se?
No, it's not. Detroit's towards the end, I think, like 3/4 through, because it ends in the springtime, I think. But they start events like earlier in the year, and then they run, you know, across the country, seasonal, obviously.
Yep.
But all indoor events, you know, all really, you got to have stanchions, displays. Some of the displays, dude.
That was what was insane. For
The
me.
displays are a cost of a car. You know what I mean? Like the amount of time and effort. And these are all self-funded things. Like this is not funded by anybody else other than you when you
it's
bring
not
your
big
car.
corporations like SEMA.
No, zero. So that's where I asked Evan earlier, had he ever been to Autorama? Has he ever seen cars, you know, like this? And he hasn't been there yet. No. And I remember the first time, you know, we went there, and I know Justin's not into old school hot rods or anything like that. I'm like, dude, you got to see some of these cars. And what'd you think? You know,
Dude, it's unbelievable. Like we would walk around together, and he'd be showing me all these details, and every fastener is chrome polished.
Right.
Every little nook and cranny of the car is absolutely perfect. Like the car that won the Riddler that year was twin turbo. The turbos were just tucked in so perfectly up front. Like it just flowed with the whole car. Every engine component is polished, like put in a spot that just flows so perfectly.
Yep.
I mean, I can't imagine the hours that go into those cars.
no, it's insane. And another cool thing is at the Riddler, in order to win the Riddler or be qualified, you can't have shown anything on the car. So this is the first time the car is ever shown to the public. Okay. So there's no images, no Instagram, no YouTube. That is where it's revealed. So that's really the only place you can go and see probably 10 to 20 of these really high-end, multi-million dollar cars.
Multi-year builds.
Yes,
too, right?
multi-year builds. I mean, some have taken 10 years
That's
to come together,
insane.
you know, and the budget's behind them. This is where Chip Foose really got well known, was on this circuit. And I may have already said that, but it's one of those things, like that's where I remember meeting these like legendary builders that now everybody knows. But I was just a kid, you know, showing a car, and it was here in Grand Rapids. The first time I really talked to Chip for a long time, because we used to have an Autorama event here in Grand Rapids, like in the early 2000s. Chip had one of his newly done cars, and it was in the corner at one of the entrances, and I was positioned right next to him. So, you know, how it is, for a couple days, you're just in there. Yep. It's us and the other entrance, and you're just sitting there talking. You look at other people's stuff, you know. And I remember talking to him, and he explained everything on the car, and I'm like, holy cow, like this is crazy. And for me, that's where I was like, I want to institute like some of those processes into a newer car. You know, how come you can't do that? How come you don't see anybody doing that?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask. Do you think, like, because all those cars typically seem to be like old school muscle, like American cars, why isn't it like they do old Ferraris, Lamborghinis?
Yeah.
And do you think like modern cars are ever going to get to that point, like a brand new car in 40 years, 60 years, are they ever going to be restored in that same fashion?
I'm not sure it's going to be the same, just because of all the electronics nowadays. You know, that's the interesting thing is, you know, those cars are all pretty straightforward. Now they've moved to fuel injection and all computer controlled, but you can buy all that stuff, you know, and set it up in the car. So the car still looks like an old school hot rod, but it's every modern convenience that there is on the market. I think the exotic, you know, I've wanted to do that for like 15 years. I've wanted to do like a pro touring style exotic car with a new motor, new interior, you know. But I think it's the guys that, first of all, are wanting to invest that amount of money into it. They're more in tune with the American stuff. You know, we're in America. They're tied into the old school. You know, that was their childhood. So the way I look at it is, it's like that's their passion project. And you know, any of this stuff is passion project. They're not doing it because they're trying to auction it or win money or anything like that. They're doing it because they want to do it. So I think it's just finding the right client that wants to do that. And I've still talked to some hot rod guys. You know, I've had some opportunities to get back in that space because I've spent a lot of time in that space too. But it's just not something I think I'm set up for right now. And
would there be one car that would maybe be like a dream car? Like I know a lot of guys are doing 356s with all modern drivetrains and stuff. Would there be like one chassis from back in the day of like a European exotic-ish car that you would want to
Nothing that comes to my head. No.
Okay.
I'd have to, the way I am, I got to wrap my head around like that thing first. You know what I mean? Like I'm really good with like, all right, we sit down and we talk about an opportunity to talk about something, and then let me go sit on it for a while and research some things and look at some things. I'm just not good at, I don't walk around with like the idea of I want to do something in particular, which I think is good and bad. It may take me a little longer to get going, but I feel like the ideas seem to be a little fresher, because things change so much in our space. I feel like when you get tied into one particular thing, by the time you're ready to put it out there, it's already, somebody's already done something
100%,
different.
Yep.
So very rarely can you sit on something for a long period of time. And, in that space, everybody's probably already done it anyway. So it's just a matter of how you make it your own when you do it.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting event. We'll be back there this year. They got us in, I think, in the front 3 rows near the main entry. I'm really honored to be up there because you don't put a lot of new cars up there. And I think I saw, believe it or not, there's a 2020 C8 next to us.
Heck yeah.
I don't know what to think of this.
We're gonna be stacked.
Yeah,
Lambo
we're
doors,
gonna
maybe.
be it's probably gonna be Lambo doors, every chrome cover thing, and crazy, man. Like I went to shows with other cars and lost to cars that have had so much crap on it.
Yeah.
Like they had suitcases match the floor mats, and they got blankets laid out on the ground, and they got shoes, and I'm like,
I mean, you're telling me we get a pair of Air Jordans matching pistachio. You're not going to have them sitting out by the car.
I would do that, but I'm not going to have the blanket and pillow and the robot and the guy leaning on the car. Nah, I'm not doing any of that. And when I take the L against those guys, I just hit myself in the face. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
But it's all personal taste at the end of the day.
It is. It is. The cool thing is about Autorama is that it is legit judged. So at the end of the day, they don't care about all the extra add-on, tacky stuff. Yep. They take into an account the design of the car, how everything flows. So again, that's where I felt the most valued when I started showing cars, because when I went to the hometown car shows, bro, I didn't win anything. It was L every single time. And I'm like, I lost to that over there. I lost to that.
That's like the one that we went to.
Oh,
dude.
Don't even get a trophy. We better not name any names where we went there. But it's all, when you go to those shows, it could be us judging.
Hilarious.
You know what I mean? We'd like, hey, we like 67 Camaro, so that thing's winning. It could have rust on it. It doesn't really matter. And as soon as you realize that, you feel a little better. But it's comical sometimes.
There was one car that popped in my head. You remember that Volkswagen Bug?
At that show?
At Autorama. That had all those like figurines, all the models. Like it was like initially you look at it, you're like, what in the heck is going on? And then you like start talking to the dude and looking at it. It was like honestly super cool. Everything was paint matched. Like and it like is scaled down. Like he had all different sizes of toys that matched the Bug.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah, that was cool.
The thing that I always tell people is like, stop looking at these show cars as being functional cars. Okay. Like everybody complains like, oh, you can't drive down the road, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, maybe not. But you look at art, right? Like art, you're not doing anything with. You hang it on the wall and you look at it and you admire it. At least this, you can take a few places. And if you want to drive it, you can drive it. But you got to respect what the cars actually are and what people put into it. Like the car could not be your taste or your style or your make or your model. But when you see the work that some people put into this stuff, really that's what I think keeps the industry going.
And the passion behind it.
Yeah,
like those dudes
ridiculous.
are absolutely stoked to talk about it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I'm excited to see Evan check that stuff out. I think he might be in sensory overload again.
Probably.
And we'll have to help him through it. But I'll put him on my shoulders. We'll walk around. He can take some pictures. You'll be taller, so that'll be good. But that's one of the things I like to take people to, because that's the type of detail that we try to pull little bits from to put into these cars that we work on them. That attention to detail when we design something, or maybe the color or the cleanliness or the thoughtfulness behind it. To me, that's what differentiates us when we do a car top to bottom. And it's that influence that I had, through all those years, I think is what led me into that realm. And also why, I'm so picky when it comes to like, hey, we got to bag this all up. Hey, we can't put fasteners in that are all, slightly gouged. And, when somebody opens the trunk and they see that, just looks tacky.
You got to detail the undershield,
Yeah.
all the extra
Yeah.
stuff.
The details, dude, you can put all the best stuff on the car, but if you're not touching the details, it's never the same as doing something just clean and then touching all the details. The car just pops differently. I don't know how to explain it. It's just one of those things, like once you start doing it and you see it, you're like, that's the way that we do it every single time.
Yeah, you taught me that off the rip. It's like yesterday with the Defender, I was putting the wheels on it. I spent 20 minutes, half hour on each wheel well, just scrubbing it, getting all the sand, the crap that's a daily driver is just destroyed.
Yep.
But then when you take the photo, when Evan takes a photo of the wheel, you don't see a bunch of sand and crap behind it.
Yep.
It all makes a big difference.
Yeah, it makes it look good. So we're going there
2 weekends.
2 weekends. Yep. We leave on Wednesday. So the shop will be closed Wednesday, the 28th through the 4th. So to give you guys a little bit of a history there, what we do is we load up on a Wednesday, we load into Autorama, we start to set up our booth, and it's not a selling booth or anything. There's no selling solicitation. This is strictly just for show. Mm-hmm. So we go there, we've got some new show boards and information that will explain some of the Project Vignole process. We've got some items that are going to show the turbo off and some of the plumbing on the inside of the engine bay that you can't easily see. So if you're in Detroit or if you're going to be in the area that weekend, make sure that you guys come out, say hi to us. We always like to meet people. We've been meeting a lot of people out at events and shows that watch our stuff, which is cool. It makes us feel like what we're doing is somewhat impactful and somebody's taking enjoyment out of it. And it just makes me feel good that people actually care about what we're doing.
Yep.
So come on out. That is in what weekends is it? That the 29th? Yep, opens on the 29th, I believe, and through the 3rd. Huntington Center used to be Cobo Hall in downtown Detroit. Come out and check us out. We'll be there.
Yep.
So let's hit. We got another cool thing coming up here. It's an event right when we get back from Detroit. So we might leave the car loaded up, but we are partnering, and actually I won't say partnering, but we're doing something with the Grand Rapids Gold, which is our NBA G League affiliate team here in Grand Rapids. They are affiliated to the championship Denver Nuggets, which is kind of cool. We have some really big draft picks on the team that are really good. I've really learned a lot this year going to the G League games and meeting the owner and the COO of the company. And they've brought us in and really shown us kind of what the G League's all about. And it's interesting. I was an athlete, stories for another time, but I was an athlete that was in a minor league program. And that's essentially what the G League is. These are guys that have signed professional contracts that are two-way players. They can play for the team down here. And if the big team needs them, they call them up and they go up. And they could come back. They could stay up there forever. So it's really interesting to see some of these guys. And we're talking about multi-million-dollar guys. They've signed, guaranteed contracts from $5 million, $7 million, $10 million. They're stars that, were all league, all conference, all Americans in college. Some of them played overseas already. So it's really interesting to see them come into town and, the attendance will range from a couple thousand to, 7,000, 8,000 on their big nights. And it's exciting to see that type of activity here in Grand Rapids that I didn't really know existed previously. So for me, and this is just me speaking personally, I like that connection with professional sports. It's an exciting atmosphere to be involved with, and watch. And it kind of lets me relive a little bit of my younger days through there. But, a lot of people go to the games. It's cool to network at them. And we're doing something really unique, which is we're going to be the first to ever bring a car to the G League game and have it next to the show. Next to the court. So we're not going to be right on the court, but there's a row of suites right behind the basket, and then the car will be in their promo area where they typically do their in-game like promo stuff, and the announcer or MC is back there talking. So They said they're going to put some lights on the car, and it'll be highlighted. They're expecting, 5,000-6,000 people there.
Sweet.
So I think it'll be cool to see the car lit up at a basketball game next to the court. We'll be all over Evan to cover some of that content and get us on court, to give you guys what that experience looks like. But yeah, I'm really excited. It's something that I've been working on for about a month or two. With them, and they seem excited about it.
Yeah, I would have never thought. I mean, I played, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times at Van Andel growing up with hockey and stuff, and I would have never thought that there would be a car that I worked on just sitting there at Van Andel Arena, which is super sick. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it is. We're excited to be involved with that. And we're excited. I think we're going to do some like Cars and Coffee style promotional stuff with them.
Okay.
And then maybe next year have more of an impact at the games. Maybe routinely we'll have spots for us to go. Christina is a sponsor, and she has some season tickets down on the court, so we get to go down there and watch the games and hang out. They're a great group of guys, and I want to see that grow. I think that's good for the community, bringing the revenue and the players and the excitement downtown is great. Not every city has that. So I think we're fortunate to have that. On top of that, we just got a professional volleyball team, which I never even knew professional volleyball was coming, but it was huge.
I know. Yeah. Awesome. The Grand Rapids Rise? Or is it
the Rise.
Yep.
Yeah. 8,000 people.
Jeez. Super sick.
Dude, it was sold out. And they have a game, so it's a doubleheader that day. They have a game at noon, so maybe we'll be around to catch some of that stuff, but they're going to, they'll be sold out again. And
that's super cool.
It's really neat to see that. I think it's really good for women's sports, especially like a lot of girls that play volleyball. They don't really have much to go watch. Think about that. Like you grew up playing volleyball, you're going to go to college, or you played volleyball. Like you would like to be around the game. So usually it's just like co-ed games, or you play on the beach, stuff like that. Now you get to see these were professionals. These were Olympians, people that have won medals in the Olympics and lived all over the world. So these girls are the best of the best. If you guys haven't checked them out, check out the Grand Rapids Rise and some of their highlights from their games. They're insane. We have some girls that are my height on the team just pounding the ball.
I've got to get to one of those games.
Yeah,
I definitely love watching volleyball.
Definitely want to check those out. And volleyball is one of those things, like you see it in person, you're like, holy cow, this is way different. This isn't like we're just playing in the backyard, like the badminton, or the beach or something like that. So I think that's going to be fun for us, and something just different. Again, new eyes on the cars and just more exposure here in our local market, and showing again the uniqueness of what Grand Rapids is kind of doing,
and the growth that's coming. The past 5 years, it seems like everything's just been on an up and up and up, which is awesome.
I know, absolutely. How much time left we got over there, Evan?
10 minutes.
You got 10 minutes?
Yep.
All right. I guess this is a 10-minute interview for you then.
All
right. So, Evan, given your experience at the auto show, the auto show, we had some hiccups, right?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us some of your, and this isn't to put you on the spot, but we just want to talk about some of it because you guys see a lot of the content that comes out. We work hard at that. A lot of the work comes from Evan, trying to formulate a plan to capture everything. Like for the auto show, 20 cars, load in, gala night, our personal stuff, vlog style.
Real stuff.
Yeah, real stuff. There's a lot on the plate on the media side, and that's something that why it's important you guys watch and become involved with us is because the amount of time and effort that we put into doing that really isn't our business. We do it because we've found out that we like it. And also we want people to know a little bit about us, know what we're working on, what's exciting to us. And if you like it, we'd like to see you get involved. So Evan, given that we thought we planned pretty properly for the event, and we had a great setup. What did you learn, I guess, through that process? And the reason I want to bring this up is somebody's watching that isn't, maybe is looking up to you and saying, hey, I'd like to learn how to take pictures. I'd like to learn how to do video. I'd like to work events. What are some of the things, like just from the auto show experience, taking what you learned at SEMA, do you feel like you've gotten better with, and some things that you feel like are still challenging where we've got to really focus or strap down on?
So something that I actually learned, kind of narrowing it down to making sure you get everything, is like a shot list. So taking that even further down to, like, let's say one of your shots you want to get, or like the way I did it for SEMA was like in our booth, I'd write like in my notes, like video of car in booth, photos of car in booth, but I wouldn't go into detail of like what exactly I should be getting, because in my mind I think I just got it. Like I know, like, okay, I got something of the exhaust, of the wheels and stuff like that. But something that I kind of realized I probably should do more often, and kind of actually take that one step further and be like, photo of wheel but have the logo in the background of HP Tuner or something like that. So I think when it goes to the auto show, I think I kind of did that again, and I kind of just said in my notes like I think I have it right here actually. I have like a gala night. I just put cars.
Right.
And I didn't.
Broad.
Right. Way too broad.
There's a few cars.
Right. There's. Right. And I was like, no, I got it. Like that's what I do. And then you start realizing like, hey, well then it's like plants. But then you're like, you can just write, like take photos of, all of the Eastern Florida plants, stuff like that. But you don't really have. Something that I learned is I should have like been like, okay, get pictures of plants of people walking out by them or with the logo and stuff like that. So that's something that I kind of definitely learned. Moving forward, we'll be start doing is just really, really specific and in-depth shot list. And kind of talking about like what shots, maybe some examples or ideas of to kind of get my brain working on the spot instead of I'm not just there looking like,
right,
I don't know what to do here. Whereas I'm kind of going into it with some ideas. And then also, kind of same thing that comes to video, like, certain shots of, people doing something or grabbing a drink or something like that, we're talking about the auto show. But, I think moving forward, just more specific and in-depth. It's kind of just the more in-depth shot list is something that I think is my biggest takeaway from that, and just making sure. And then once you think you have everything, like actually going back and checking and making sure you have everything and make sure it's clear and it's in focus and whatever and usable. So I think that's the biggest thing that I learned through SEMA and then kind of the auto salon too.
And that's the thing that like I want to let people know, like I struggle a little bit with getting my vision out. It's kind of the same thing with the cars, but I also have an expectation that somebody understands my vision. So blending that between, trusting somebody knows exactly what you want captured, and then actually being able to provide them the information they need to capture what you need is the balance that takes a lot of work to figure out. And, I've got to do a better job at saying, all right, Evan doesn't know exactly how much of this content particularly that I need, but the stuff you guys got to realize is that Evan captures content that we will use as even just backdrop stuff, stuff that's not even included in like major posts or anything like that. So another interesting thing that I recently saw is there was an interview with Larry Chen, and I know you met Larry or
Good Life.
Okay. And obviously everybody knows who Larry Chen is and looks up to him. But Larry had an interesting take, and I was curious what you thought about it, Evan. But Larry has, I think years ago, stopped watermarking images. He stopped worrying about, hey, I took this shot. Instead, he took the thought process of, I'm going to take these shots. I've taken millions over my career. I put them out there. If somebody grabs them and shares them, really, that's a compliment to me. Just to see my work go out there and be shared through lots of platforms, it's essentially art. And when I'm long gone, my art will continue to live on in that fashion. Will everybody know that I took the photo? No. But will there be a lot of people that do know that I took the photo because of where I was or who I was working with and stuff like that? People say yes. So he kind of left that. I see a lot of media guys or companies get wrapped up in the fact like, oh, this is my content only. You can't share this, blah, blah, blah. And of course, Larry's in a different part of his career compared to everybody else. Everybody wants to make a name. But I thought there was something unique in that thought process of saying, hey, listen, at the end of the day, everybody takes pictures. And if my pictures are the ones being shared and people see them, and I'm able to even to reshare them, if I want to promote it, I can promote it, right? I'm proud of that. What do you think, Evan, about that? Because, I think you've seen the positive reaction of just showing what we do, right? Like, and I always took a lot of pride in what we did here and saying, I thought we provided something to the guy that could come in and really create some content. And we've argued with people. People's like, no. Like, what's important is the lens. What's important is the way it's captured and blah, blah. And there is an aspect that is important. But what about the top? What about what we're taking pictures of? I think that
subject.
Yeah, the subject I think elevates your work also, and maybe puts you to a level that is requiring you to do more to make it really pop and look good. So I was curious, what do you think about Larry's thought process first on, if people take an image and share it and they don't know that you necessarily took the shot, how does that affect you or how does that make you feel? Versus, when we share something directly and people know you took the shot, what do those make you feel like? Like if you see that stuff happening?
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to that, I've never really used a watermark. I just kind of, my thought process was someone could always, if they wanted to, could just crop it out.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, once you put it on the entire photo, it's kind of
thing.
pointless.
Yep.
So I kind of just went to the social side of like, the new watermark in my eyes, kind of like tagging the person who took the photo or whatever,
Yep.
kind of like giving credit where it's due. But I used to be pretty big on that and stuff like that. But then when I kind of doing some stuff here and we get some companies would repost some pictures that we took, they wouldn't tag me. But I would still feel good on the inside because kind of the whole thing I'm kind of doing this is, part of it's just, I enjoy doing it. Like it's just kind of, it's a form of art and I just, enjoy doing it. So seeing that, like, on, I can't remember exactly, but, a wheel company or like a radiator company, they're on their page kind of just makes, myself feel good because I'm like, oh, well, they liked the photo, you know what I mean? And I don't really necessarily feel like I need to go and like, you got to tag me in this or whatever. So I think when it comes to that, I definitely agree with what Larry is saying. Like, when he's gone, or when we're gone, like if they're still circulating, you should feel good about that,
Yeah.
And I think at one point, everyone would probably know, like, especially if it was just, one singular and very famous photo, like like Ken Block drifting around Pikes Peak,
the most iconic
like
car photo
everyone
of all
knows
time.
who took that, like there's multiple angles, but everyone knows that one angle. There's no watermark on that or anything like that. So I think when it comes to watermark, it's kind of like definitely a personal preference. I think you can kind of go any way, but in my opinion, it's like kind of useless, but I feel good just when it's being used and stuff like that, whether my name's on it or not. It might benefit me like networking wise and socially wise, but as far as it goes for like no one can use it, I don't really know about that.
I think there's value to it, certainly. That's why you're not asking for it, but when somebody shares one of our photos from a company, I always ask them to make sure they include your information because especially when you're getting started out. Same with like our stuff. We want to be recognized when we build something, and if somebody shares it, we'd like them to tag us, just because we want to make sure that people know where that came from. So that's an important part for me as far as like the social growth and stuff like that. But I think you're right in the fact, and Larry's right in the fact that at the end of the day, you're still creating something that's going to live beyond you. Which is interesting. That's kind of how I feel about the cars, and there's some cool stories out there about a car that Justin knows what I'm talking about, a car that's floating out there in the universe that's been out there for quite a while that I'm associated with that there's some conversations with, but maybe we'll tell you something about that in the future.
Right. I'm curious.
Maybe not. But I think that goes to part of your history, you know, and what you've provided in the world and what you've done, and if you've had an impact, and keep searching for those times or those experiences to create that meaningful stuff instead of worrying about, hey, did I get 10,000 likes?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
like deep
Can't get caught
down,
up in that.
you're the one that built that car. Like if Car Lifestyle shared your car, didn't tag you, it's like, does it really matter? No,
Right.
because you built that car. Now, 100,000 people are seeing it.
Yep, absolutely. So I just thought that was a cool thing.
Yeah, it was.
And I wanted to ask Evan your thought on it, just because I know this has been a different experience for you. You're still learning a lot of stuff. Detroit will be a new experience for you. We're excited to have you come there and see some of that.
Yep.
And
do you have any photographers that you look up to in the automotive realm?
Larry Chen, there's a lot of people on Instagram I follow that I just appreciate, like, the way they shoot and some angles and styles and stuff like that. But Larry Chen just has everything down. Like, he works for all of the big companies. He, in magazines or whatever. I think he's sponsored by Canon, you know what I mean? So like, that's definitely like, maybe people would say like my hero or my idol, that's someone I kind of look up to just, in the photography world, just cause, he paved his own way and he made it work and he has everything down to kind of like the T that he likes it. I just appreciate that. So,
yeah, for sure. Moving ahead from that, we've really just have our probably 2024 event schedule in that we're going to go over for our next episode. and want to bring you guys up to speed on what's happening locally here in West Michigan. If you guys are local and you want to come out and participate in some events this summer, we've got a huge lineup, some really new venues, and exciting things that I think if you're into cars, or if you have a car and you haven't been out to an event, you're going to want to come out to these events that we've got scheduled this year. It's going to be the biggest summer schedule I've ever put together in 8 years, with some of the best partners, I will say, that will really open up the doors for us to have some experiences that nobody has around here. Again, when we're talking about doing events, we're not talking about going in the Meijer parking lot and standing there with a bunch of guys. We're talking about some shopping, some food, some music, kind of all-inclusive. Bring the family, bring the kids, photos. We have feature rows set up, reveals at events. Just something that feels more almost like a auto show-ish, but also with people participating with their own cars, us bringing cars out, sponsors bringing cars out, and demos and things like that. So I'm really excited where the schedule is going to be this year, and what I think how people are going to respond to it. It's going to be a fun summer. We just need to get some warm weather here, which
100%.
may be another 90 days too.
Who
So
knows?
we also have some new additions coming to the shop that we want to talk about in the upcoming episodes. I think this year is going to be a special year for us. We got so much happening. We got to keep our heads on straight, and we got to find time to continue to keep this podcast up and our workload up, and keep meeting everybody and talking to you, and make sure we're not turning anybody away. But again, we really appreciate the support that we've gotten to get here and where I think we're going in 2024. I'm just excited to see this spring arrive and what we're going to be putting out of the shop, and what Evan's going to be doing when he gets done with school. School? How's school going? School update.
All right.
Let's do a mid-February school checkup. This midterm? Early midterm.
Parent-teacher conferences.
A little early.
Yeah. How about friend-teacher conferences?
That works. School's good. Compared to last semester, we have easier classes, so that makes
That's a bonus.
Less core classes, more like really random things that I'm kind of second guessing myself of why I scheduled them.
Right.
Hoping there's some foundational stuff in there that I needed.
Like what? History of rock and roll?
No, it's worse than that. It's like critical thinking. And
you need critical thinking.
Right,
We're just talking about the shot list, and he wrote cars down. That's not very critical. Hey, pictures to get cars.
All right. Well,
cars.
But then it's like stuff like the scientific revolution or whatever, and I'm like, I'm never gonna I'm so a couple classes I'm quite lost in, and I'm like, I really don't know what's happening. But it's less exam based, and it's more just busy work. So as long as I stay on top of just the random weekly stuff, we're pretty chilling.
All right,
good.
Yeah.
How's your classes going, Justin?
Oh, I'm doing just fine over here.
That's what I like to hear. We are trying a couple different films, right? Doing some testing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we might find some interesting stuff.
Yeah, might have a couple announcements here coming up.
Yeah. We're always trying new things and testing out new stuff here. So we want to make sure we're staying in front of the game for you guys, for the guys that use us for services.
I think I've got like 6 or 8 films I've been trying out the past couple months just to kind of see. I always want to stay up on it. It's like some companies, they release the best film on the market that I think, and then 3-4 years later, it's like, well, have they improved that? Not really. So there's always, companies that are innovating. So that's what I'm working towards right now.
Cool. And I'm just working on staying above water. So that's all we need to talk about for the rest of today. You guys, thanks again for watching us. If you aren't following, we ask you please share and follow. Find some other people that wouldn't mind being bored by me talking the majority of the time and be more interested in those guys talking. And of course, you can send us an email or a DM if you have questions, you want us to talk about something, please do so. But as usual, thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you in the next ep.
See ya.
See ya.